Commencing roll call now. Chair Blair Whitney,
Here.
Councilmember Juan Carlos Prado. Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez,
I'm here.
Councilmember Jennifer Reese. Councilmember Niket Searcy. Councilmember Kathleen Daly,
Here.
Councilmember George Salmon. And Chair Brooke Sussex.
Here.
A brief announcement, we do have an interpreter joining us this evening. For those of you joining in person, if you would like to listen to this meeting in Spanish, please use the headset provided at the check-in table. Ruby, would you like to provide these instructions in Spanish?
Si hay alguien aquí adentro que necesita un intérprete, por favor. A la mesita para invitar.
Back to you, Chair.
Agenda item number 2, public comment. Anyone may speak for up to 2 minutes on any topic not on the agenda. If you're in the room, please fill out a speaker slip, bring it to the clerk. If you're on Zoom, you may use the raised hand feature. Please note that the council may not discuss or take action on items not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment tonight?
It is now time for general public comment. If you would like to make public comment, please bring a speaker slip up to the clerk during this time. For those of you joining this meeting online, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom. Each person will be granted 2 minutes to speak. Does anyone have a public comment on the agenda? We will begin with public comment on Zoom and then proceed to comment by purpose room. We do have a hand on Zoom. When I call your name, I will unmute your mic and you will be granted 2 minutes. Let's begin with Wendy.
Sorry about that. We're gonna have the interpreter get closer because you can't hear you guys.
Hey Wendy, when you're ready, when you speak.
All right. Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So I'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Wendy Vargas. I am an employment specialist at JobTrain. And I'm here to announce that we are going to launch a new career center. It will be the North Fair Oaks Economic and Employment Center, which will provide a comprehensive job readiness training and supportive services to our clients. Our center will be staffed by a team of employment specialists who are committed to helping the North Fair Oaks and Redwood City residents to find meaningful, well-paying employment. At our Career Center, clients will have an access to a range of services designed to help them achieve their employment goals. These services include resume building, job search and strategies, and techniques and interview coaching. Our team will work closely with clients to identify their strengths and skill sets and develop a personalized plan for success. We will also offer supportive services to ensure that we are meeting clients where they are by providing extra support during their job search. We will also have a Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center alongside JobTrain once our location is finalized. This will be another opportunity for clients to look at other options of employment through business planning. In addition to job search support and supportive services, JobTrain offers career training programs in high demand fields, ESL classes, computer literacy courses in English and in Spanish, all free of cost. We recognize that success in the workplace requires more than just a job offer, and we are committed to helping our clients overcome any barrier that may be preventing them from achieving their full potential. Whether you're getting started in your career or looking to make a change or in your career, our Career Center is here to help you. We encourage you to schedule an appointment with us and to learn more about the services we offer. We will have temporary satellite offices at the Sequoia Adult School and at the North Fair Oaks Community Center starting in July. And that is everything. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Wendy.
We do have one more speaker slip. When I call your name, you may come up to the podium. You will have 2 minutes to speak. I'd like to call Jose Alvarez up for public comment.
Ahí para enfrente.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Hi, good afternoon.
Pues la verdad no me bien ahorita, pero
The truth, I didn't understand what you said.
la verdad pues venimos aquí pues a ver si nos iban a ayudar. Los problemas están ahorita en la calle. Yo tengo un negocio aquí que es un ice cream shop, se llama Los Manguitos, no sé si
I came here to get some help from you because I have some problems. I have an ice cream shop called Los Manguitos.
y pues desde la pandemia se me bajaron mucho las ventas y luego ahorita con lo de la calle yo pienso que se me bajaron un 70% más o menos.
And ever since the pandemic, my business has gone down. And so because of the construction on Middlefield Road, so it's gone down 70%.
Y es por nomás conseguir dinero para seguir los gastos y los trabajadores, es mucho.
It's really hard to pay the workers and to continue forward because of these problems.
Luchando para sobrevivir mientras acaban la construcción para ver si no pues, se mantiene vivo todavía para ese tiempo, ¿no?
So I'm surviving, I'm struggling all along to see if I can stay afloat after all this construction that's going on.
Ahí miramos pues como que no hay mucho, no sé cómo trabajen ellos, pero tienen toda la semana que no se paran, pues ahí es el negocio de trabajar. O sea, están esperando algo, no sé.
I don't know what's going on, but they're always in front of my business.
Está cerrado y pues los poquitos clientes que van ahí todavía que les gusta, pues van, pero hay gente para parquearse y todo eso.
The streets are always closed. I have a few regulars that come often, and they still come over, but everybody else can't find parking.
Sí, es todo.
That's all I have to say right now.
¿Cómo pueden ayudar?
How can you help me? I would like to know how you can help.
It is contact information.
Down this way.
Okay, we'll get that.
Entonces, se van a poner en contacto.
There are things being done.
Cosas ahorita.
Business owners met with Supervisor Slocum last week. We're
Para
waiting to see what kind of action and help is going to come.
que
from the
que tipo de
supervisor.
acción y ayudar a las personas de negocio. Okay,
Muchas gracias.
thank you very much.
I want to say that. public comment.
Okay.
Erika, pásale por enfrente.
Okay. And she's gonna,
We'll have her.
me hace pausita con la pausas. Sí.
Puede empezar con esta lista.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Erika Hernández,
Good afternoon, and my name is Erika Hernandez,
represento al restaurante Siete Mares.
and I'm the representative of the restaurant called Siete Mares.
Se encuentra donde está afectada la donde está afectando ahorita la construcción.
It's located and it's been affected by the construction.
Nuestra situación afectada está un 80%,
We've been affected 80%.
ya que mis jefes están negativos actualmente $22,000.
Because my bosses are negative $22,000.
En la semana pasada tuvimos que cerrar 2 días porque ya no hay para seguir adelante, martes y jueves.
Last week we had to close 2 times, Tuesdays and Thursdays, because we can't handle it anymore.
De la manera más atenta les pedimos un cheque de emergencia para que pueda seguir adelante el restaurante.
Would like to ask you if you can please help us out with the check so our restaurant can move forward and survive.
El inspector nos hablaba que tuvimos la junta que él no lo podría dar en 2 meses. 2 meses es demasiado tarde quizás para que el restaurante siga adelante, ya que quedaríamos 3 días solamente, viernes, sábado y domingo.
The inspector told us it would take 2 months, but that's way too long. I don't know if we'll be able to survive that way.
En la actualidad hay 2 personas que no han podido cambiar sus cheques por falta de fondos.
And we're only open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And there's been some employees that haven't been able to cash their checks because we don't have the funds for it.
Y pues sí nos gustaría que hoy día nos dieran una respuesta para ver si el restaurante puede seguir adelante.
I would like to know if you can give them a response today to see if the residents are gonna be able to move forward.
De mi parte es todo. Traigo las pruebas a donde mis jefes son negativos en cuanto que pues ya no pueden. Yo lo traigo físicamente por si gustan que se los deje.
Okay, I brought you physical evidence about what's happening with the restaurant. And so if you want to see it, I have it here for you to see.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have one more public comment.
Buenas tardes,
Good afternoon.
mi nombre es Jocelyn Cruz. Dioselina.
My name is Dioselina Cruz.
Y yo tengo un pequeño negocio se llama Samantha's Beauty Salon
I have a business, it's called Samantha's Beauty Salon.
y está ubicado en 401 Segunda Avenida.
It's located at 401 Second Avenue.
Y estoy aquí porque me gustaría si me pueden apoyar
And I'm here to see if I can get some support
sobre la renta,
regarding my rent,
porque me ha estado afectando la construcción.
because the construction has been affecting my business.
Ahora estoy solamente trabajando por unas horas en las tardes
I'm only working a few hours in the afternoons.
porque ha perjudicado a los clientes que no tienen carro, que no pueden venir, o los que tienen carro o no saben, se cancelan su cita para su corte de cabello.
And there's been a lot of clients that don't know about transportation, or they have to cancel for their haircuts.
Ay, y pues sí, especialmente ahorita que está totalmente cerrada la segunda, no pueden entrar carros.
And especially because it's totally closed, nobody can go through Second Avenue. No cars can get through.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
The last call for public comment.
Give them time so they can put on their headphones.
Oh, unfortunately, the Brown Act, you can't immediately reply to a public comment.
I may ask, I'll forward my comment.
You can give it informational.
Yes. Just because we don't want. Okay.
The chair, the county may be able to give some informational updates, even though we can't address it as an unagendized item. He's offering to.
They don't have their ears on. We just give 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Should probably do that as part of the report out later on.
Yeah, or I can advance that if
Let's
it's your
let's
way.
advance that then.
Yeah.
After the.
Yeah, so I don't know if everyone will stay, but that would be good to hear.
So the other thing that we're gonna ask, for the, interpreter, if you guys could please raise your voices a little bit, Jennifer, voices up. And then she can hear you clearly to do the interpretation, because we don't have, microphones. We have one microphone, but do we have two? Oh, she has one. We can move it across the table and you guys can share it. You'll put one on this side.
Oh, okay.
Adam is gonna speak.
Are we ready?
Back to you, Joy.
Okay. Through the chair, I'd like to, if possible, advance a portion of the county report out that's slated for the agenda. I just wanted to sort of echo what you indicated, Chair Esser, that the county supervisor, Warren Slocum, has met with local businesses that are impacted along Middlefield Road. The supervisor has also met with the county executive, and they're in development of a program that could provide some support to local businesses. The program needs to be finalized a little bit before I would announce any of the details of it. But I can let you know that it's being worked on as a priority and on a priority timeline. The additional information that is important to relay, however, is that any program that is going to provide county funds will have to go to a county board meeting. So we'll look to advance the potential support item to an early county board meeting and come back with some more details as quickly as possible. So it is being looked at, and the hope and intention currently is to have some form of support. A number of details need to be worked out, and it has to go through some board action before they can become a reality.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Adam.
Brooks, can I add through the chair, that for the businesses, please continue to work with Josh from the Office of Community Affairs or through our office, because that information will come through you from the office, through our office. And we're located at Casa Surtulo. I need to quickly want to go to Spanish. Estamos aquí en la Casa Surtulo.
Does Josh have office hours on in Casa Circulo?
He's there pretty much at least 4 days a week. So we're there quite often. He's out on the field mostly, but are not in the office.
Could I add a comment? Quick comment?
Please go ahead.
I'd like to add that, in addition to the possibilities of the Board of Supervisors making a decision to provide funding, I think that it would also be good to look at the construction schedule and specifically about the closure of some of those avenues, because I know that Second Avenue and Third Avenue are entirely closed to traffic. And also the full stripe or the full stretch from Fifth Avenue to what is it? I think it's Pacific. It is closed, and my understanding was that initially a construction crew were going to be closing 2 blocks at a time and working on those. At least that was my understanding. Things might have changed, but I think it might be good to, in view of the emergency situations that many small businesses are finding themselves, that it may be good to ask the constructors and see if there's a possibility of, alleviating some of the pressure that they're going through.
Okay, Blair.
I just want to echo what Evers said. I've been going up and down Middlefield since the speaker last week, patronizing the taqueria, and the east side of the street seems to be being treated differently than the west side. And I like on the weekends, they're not working. The stuff's just sitting there. They could have opened up some of those streets and provided access. And it seems like they're very laissez-faire about the businesses on that side of the street. They're tired. They've been on this contract for a long time. They had cost overruns. The county paid them, so they don't have to absorb any stuff. So they got extra money with Granite Rock Construction for their cost overruns and their timeline. But the construction, it's not like it was on the other side where it was just 2 blocks at a time. The furniture store, some of the places, I don't see a way to get to it on a bike or pedestrian. I'm like, there's literally no way to get to this store. And there's like one little alley to get to the taqueria and the laundromat. I mean, yeah, it's pretty bad.
There's a reason behind it, and apparently, to my eye, and from what I'm hearing from everyone, the reason it's not working very well. The idea was they were going to close down larger sections, Middlefield going north. So when one phase or one portion of work was done, if you will, they could immediately go to the next section. So say they're chopping up a sidewalk and replacing it. Use a real simple example. Well, if they're only doing 2 blocks at a time and they're done, taking out the old sidewalk, the sidewalk demolition crew is kind of stuck. By extending the area that they closed down, they can work continuously, presumably faster, hopefully finish by the end of November. Now, with that said, this isn't working for local businesses, and I think the supervisor and planning and building are aware of that. Let's see what we can get, in terms of change, both, in terms of how the work is being done, and also perhaps some support for local businesses at this point.
Hello, it's good to see you here. Thank you for coming and
Yes,
using
thank
your
you.
voices
Thank you for
tonight.
coming tonight very much.
I was at that meeting, and Supervisor Slocum, this is good news that they're working on it. I know the pain of waiting. I know that firsthand from my own experience as a business owner. But we also talked about the fact that government they don't work that fast. They have to go through the channels of the executive office and then the supervisors. But I just beg you to hang on, and I know it's not easy, but keep using your voices, and I think it sounds like they're doing what they can. So it is good news tonight that they're working on it.
And I'll just add one quick thing. We will go back to our Department of Public Works, who's managing the project, and they're already aware, because I believe they participated in that meeting.
Yeah.
About the impacts of trying to sort of get the work done in the most rapid fashion, which would be by the end of September. But there's some pretty significant consequences to the businesses through that methodology. So we'll take that back and reiterate that that's coming again from voices in North Fair Oaks that appeared at the council meeting, so that they can adjust potentially as needed.
Thank you, gracias. Okay.
Sí, pues más que nada, como dijo el señor aquí, es que estamos carros parados, así se desespera más porque en realidad pues, están ahí estorbando.
Like the gentleman said, all the equipment's just sitting there, and it makes me more anxious, stressed out that nothing's being done. It's just sitting there.
Desde el sábado no se ve ni un trabajo.
I haven't seen anybody work on anything, any workers since last Saturday.
Okay, thank you for the information.
Thank you.
En nuestro caso del restaurante, ¿podría tener alguna respuesta a las personas que se encuentran aquí, ya que está afectado el 80%? ¿Hay algún avance que le pueda dar al restaurante?
All the people present here, I was wondering if I could get a response regarding getting some sort of relief, because the restaurant's it's losing 80% of its business. If we can get any type of temporary help or anything.
The support program is probably going to take some time. It has to, not an extended period of time, but it has to go through a little bit of process in the county. So it'll be prioritized. and move through on the next possible board meeting, I believe. But that's not like tomorrow or the next day. It's probably at least a few weeks out.
When is the next board meeting?
I believe it's July 11th. Well, there's June 26th through June 28th, but those are budget hearings.
Okay,
July 11th, I believe, is the next board meeting. So that would be the earliest opportunity for the board to approve a support program.
okay. Anything else on this while we have everyone here? See, fortunately, Tim's not here, so we can take things out of order and discuss stuff, keep people going, and I don't get in trouble, so that's great. Okay, thank you all very much. Next item, North Fair Oaks Personal Safety Preparedness, 10 minutes. Presentation is going to be by Kevin Foils of the Department of Emergency Management. Kevin? Did I pronounce that correctly? Yes, thank you. There it is.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Evan Foils. I'm an emergency management coordinator here in San Mateo County. I work for the Department of Emergency Management, which is a department within the county. And our department's priority is creating plans to ensure that San Mateo County is ready to respond to disasters and emergencies such as storms, fires, earthquakes, etc. That being said, one of the main things that we want to prioritize is community outreach and ensuring that the folks we serve are prepared to respond, to all types of disasters within their homes and to support their families and their local neighbors. So one of the big things that we're doing in the next month or so is we're having a disaster preparedness. It's a personal preparedness event fair. It's going to be on July 15th on Saturday at Casa Circulo in front of the mural. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There's food will be provided free. Families, children, everybody is welcome. There'll be fun training. There'll be fire trucks. Menlo Fire will be present. Redwood City Fire will be present. There'll be plenty of nonprofits that all play a role in North Fair Oaks. It's going to be every agency that plays a role in North Fair Oaks is I'm hoping to have there. The American Red Cross, certain teams from Menlo Fire, certain teams from Redwood City Fire. And it's going to be a really fun kind of safety preparedness event. So some of the curriculum that's going to be covered is training how to, create a go bag, have a disaster preparedness kit. Another thing that's going to be kind of taught is search and rescue techniques, how to get people who are stuck underneath debris and using the materials around you to kind of lift and leverage. Also, we're going to cover components of CPR, head to toe assessments, and first aid. And the last thing and the fun thing for kids, families, everybody involved is we will have a fire ban and a fire extinguisher kind of presentation. And we will be teaching people how to use the fire ban, how to use the fire extinguisher, and kind of the techniques and teamwork that is needed for this event. So like I said before, it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday, July 15th at Casa Circulo. It's going to be a fun preparedness event. Really looking forward to kind of, teaching everybody who wants to be part of it. And we hope to see you there. And the flyer is right here. We're going to be pushing that flyer as we proceed forward and get closer to the event. And then my contact information is provided below with my email and phone number. Please reach out if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions from council members for Kevin, Kathleen, please?
Are you serving food?
Yes, it will be provided free of charge.
Can we get it from some of these local
Absolutely.
groups? Great.
And another thing I want to mention is we'll have music and games for children, and eating areas. And so it'll be kind of a fun mini fair. I know we talk about Disaster Preparedness Day, which is actually going to be held on August 5th at the San Mateo County Event Center. I like to think of this as a mini preparedness day. So bring your families, bring your kids, bring your friends, relatives. It's going to be a really great event. So look forward to seeing everybody.
Any other questions from council members?
Quick question. Did you bring any flyers?
I don't have any flyers on me, but I can provide you flyers after the meeting, if that's all right.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from council members? Is there any public comment on this agenda item?
During this time, members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item number 3, the Borough's Personal Safety Preparedness Day, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring a speaker slip up to the clerk during this time. You will be granted 2 minutes to speak at the time when your name is called. There seems to be no public comment. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much, Kevin. We'll do what we can to drive attendance to that. Sounds like a great event. Thanks. Agenda item number 4, recommendation for an off-street parking exception to allow 1 covered parking space or 2 covered parking spaces are required in conjunction with a major remodel and a 3rd bedroom addition to an existing single-family residence at 3273 Fair Oaks Avenue. We have 20 minutes for this, and the presentation will be made by Camille Young of the Planning and Building Department.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Okay, so I'm Camille Young. I'm a senior planner at the San Mateo County Planning and Building. Jennifer, should I share my presentation or are you gonna share?
Yeah, give us 1 moment.
Okay, sure. This is an off-street parking exception where usually 2 parking spaces are required. So if it's in the North Fair Oaks community, we seek a recommendation of the North Fair Oaks Community Council for this request to waive 1 parking space of the 2 required parking spaces that the owner would be required to provide at the site. And the location is at 3273 Fair Oaks Avenue.
And through the chair, just briefly on this item,
Yes.
we're an 8-member board, is that
Yes.
correct? And we only have 4. So we don't actually have a quorum
Oh,
to make a formal recommendation.
okay.
I thought we had 50% was a quorum.
Typically should be 5 for a quorum for an 8-member board. Need a majority of the board.
I was not.
One of the seats was vacant.
Is one of the seats vacant?
Yeah, one seat is vacant, so that doesn't count toward the quorum.
I think our membership is at 9 and we
Oh.
currently have a vacant seat, so we have 8. But you're saying even with 8, we would need 5, and I was under the impression 4 was
I believe it's 5. What we could do is the chair could receive a presentation. Those in attendance could make comments. Those comments could be taken into consideration by building and planning.
okay.
And while this is going on, I'll do a little bit of research just to confirm.
Okay.
But I believe it is 5.
Okay.
It's a quorum of an 8-member board.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
So that's fine. Jennifer, you can advance the slide. Okay, so the property is shown from the street on the left-hand side. You can see there's a single car parking garage currently. And the lot is located in the middle of the block. It's actually of a substandard width where 50 feet width is required. There's only a 40-foot frontage. You can go to the next slide. So this is the placement of the existing residence with a driveway. And you can go to the next one. So the scope of the project involves a major interior remodel of this house and adding a third bedroom. The house is I guess the house is non-conforming. Maybe there's non-conforming setback or something. Oh, okay, no, I see. Okay, there's it's not conforming in the sense where there's two bedrooms, where two spaces are required, but there's only a single car garage. Got it. And the proposed addition that's being proposed is 435 square feet. And I'll have a slide later to show where the areas of the house that are being added onto. So there's an existing single car garage. It has been illegally converted, but the owner said that they will, and as a part of this permit, they're required to revert it back to a operational one car garage. And the second parking space was triggered by not only the third bedroom, but also the fact that there's a very substantial remodel being proposed that would trigger parking conformance with the regulations. So the owner has then, instead of providing the second space, he's applied for an off-street parking exception to maintain the one car garage. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And these are the areas being added on to. There's a center courtyard area that I believe is being enclosed. Everything else conforms. And you can go to the next slide. These are the proposed elevations of the building after the remodel is built. Okay, we can go to the next one. So in terms of the general plan, the project conforms with the land use designation of residential. The zoning is S73. The addition does meet all development standards. There is a non-conforming lot width. The lot is narrow, so that actually the provision of a second parking space side by side would eat up more of the width of the parcel and leave less for living purposes. So there's a little bit of a hardship there. And as previously stated, any dwelling unit with two or more bedrooms would require two parking spaces, and they have applied for an off-street parking exception to waive one of the spaces. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And this slide is to show you the floor plan. In yellow is the existing garage. In red is the area of the entryway that would be essentially eliminated if they were to provide a conforming two-car garage. So it would impact their entry area, which then would maybe then be pushed into the living room and then further limit the living room and the dining room. And just overall circulation would change. And we can go to the next slide. So with that, staff recommends approve that the North Fair Oaks Community Council either, I can just receive comments, or you can, if you have a quorum, you can recommend, we recommend approval of the off-street parking exception to allow the continued use of the single car garage where two covered parking spaces are required in association with a major remodel of an existing single family residence. And that concludes staff's presentation. And I'll be available if you have any questions.
Are there any questions from council members on this agenda item?
I do.
Kathleen, go ahead, please.
So the way that I understand it is there's a single car garage, and the owners or the tenants would only have one space to park. So they want to be able to get more parking on the street, correct?
There's also a driveway that they can park. So they don't necessarily, it wouldn't necessarily put an additional car out on the street.
So here's my struggle. We're rezoning North Fair Oaks, and we are taking away parking from tons of residents all throughout North Fair Oaks in the way that things are moving forward. We don't have to force developers to add any additional parking anywhere for the current neighborhood. So I'm trying to understand, in my mind, trying to get my arms around the fact that it's okay when we do it in other places, but single family homes, they're off limits, and whatever they need, we should give them. So I'm struggling with that. I think that's not fair. If we're not going to make parking a priority, for all North Fair Oaks residents and try to do something about the parking situation. I don't know why single-family homes get any other great concessions. And if the goal is to get everybody on bikes or on public transit, a 3-bedroom house, I can promise you there's more than one car. And there's going to be 2 or 3, possibly even 4 cars out on the street. And that does affect the community. So I'm not in favor of granting this for that very reason. If we're not going to be fair to all of North Fair Oak residents when it comes to parking, single-family homes have to be taken off the list too.
Well, so just to provide a little bit of background, San Mateo County Planning, when there's an off-street parking exception in North Fair Oaks, and usually for single-family residences, we bring them to the NFOCC. I don't know if we need to decide now how you're going to treat all, I guess, single-family residential off-street parking exceptions. The case by case, the hardship may differ. And in some cases, an exception is more warranted than others. So I don't know if, I mean, it's up to the NFOCC how they want to, or whether they want to review these at all, or just recommend like a standard recommendation for all off-street parking exceptions for single-family residences. But generally, there's a case-by-case decision based on the hardships of the case.
Vice Chair Whitney, go ahead.
I think we desperately need housing, and I think that people are trying to make something work with what they have and what they can afford. As long as there's a plan for some off-street parking, whether it's a driveway plus a garage, I think we're losing a rental unit because the garage is currently without benefit of a permit, a conversion, which means people are living in it. I looked at the floor area ratio and stuff. They could actually build higher and denser, but it's the homeowner that what they can afford to do. And I don't know how long they've lived in North Fair Oaks, but they're just trying to improve the property they've got. We had a home near the Marsh Road area where they had a plan to, a driveway and a garage. And that seemed all right to me. So I'm not against the project. I would be in general support because we do desperately need housing, and this doesn't.
Ever, please go ahead.
Were the residents in the surrounding area notified? And was there any public comment, either positive or negative, about granting the exception?
No, staff did do a 300-foot radius notification, and staff did not receive comments on the project.
And could you repeat the general width of the lot? It seems like one of those narrow lots that are found in North Fair Oaks, but in comparison with a regular lot, is it narrower or is it just my perception?
40 foot.
It's narrower by 10 feet than I would say, standard and minimum lot size per our current regulation, but there are even narrower lots that exist in North Fair Oaks, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from council members? Camille, could you put the slide back up once again that shows the layout of the lot? There's kind of a schematic or a bird's eye view, if you will, of the lot.
Okay. That's a survey of the current layout of the house. I think Jennifer's trying to find the slide. But I did want to clarify that the garage conversion was not an ADU, it was a living room. So it just, no one's being, I don't believe anyone's being evicted. It wasn't a standalone dwelling unit.
Okay, the photo actually is a better thing for me to use on this. The photo of the front of the house. So if I'm looking at this, it appears as though that a car can be parked to the left of the driveway. Is that correct? What I'm trying to do is figure out how two cars can be parked on that lot and still allow access to the driveway, so we don't have a tandem situation. Parking is similar to what you'd have if you had a two-car garage. So it appears to me that is possible, that we could park a car to the left of the driveway and then leave the driveway free for access to the garage. Is that correct?
I believe that the driveway looks like it's about 20 feet. So yes, I think that would be possible.
Okay, so what we're doing basically when we grant one of these exceptions is when residents go, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, on this, when residents go from a 2-bedroom house to a 3-bedroom house, they have to have covered parking or a garage for 2 cars. And the exceptions that we grant, we do, in my judgment anyway, when you can park 2 cars on the lot, the exception being, okay, one of them is not in a garage, but it's not on the street either. And that's kind of what I look for in these things, trying to avoid putting an additional car out on the street. And it looks like in this case, second car can be parked out front, a first car can be parked in a garage. So that's up to the individual owner, and there's no need to have a covered 2-car garage on this property. Am I looking at this right?
Yeah.
Bill?
I would say the typical is a 2-car garage with a 2-car with driveway. I mean, that's kind of the standard. In this case, it's a driveway that starts out single and then flares out towards the front door, if you can see that. So it's not, fully rectangular. So it would be a little hard to fit to be honest, because it kind of angles out more towards the middle of the front yard, so.
Okay, and can you explain an S73 zoning to me? I don't know what that designation means.
Yeah, it's R1 S73. So the R1 is the single family residential, and the S3 refers to a combining district where typically, I believe S73 has a 5,000 square foot minimum parcel size, 50-foot parcel width, and generally 5-foot side setbacks. So it just refers to sort of a body of development standards that apply to that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions, Blair? Please go ahead.
You can't control what people are going to do down the road. You could still end up with 3 or 4 vehicles, a work truck and a trailer. And if people are upset about the density of parking on the street, we talk about permit parking down the road, but
Our study session topic is going to be parking in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. So other questions from council members?
Well, I guess my last question is whether we meet quorum or not.
We do not.
No, it's the majority of the board, which is 50% plus 1.
Okay.
Darn it.
I was not.
But I do think you're able to provide comments and feedback to the planning and building department, which they can note in whatever they may take forward.
Okay. There's no other comment from council members. Is there any public comment on this agenda item?
During this time, members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item number 4, recommendations for off-street parking exception, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring up speakers up to the clerk during this time. You will be granted 2 minutes to speak at the time your name is called.
No comments about the home.
They say, no se podía hacer, nomás de
Just advise them it's only about comments about the house, right? They have no question.
Okay, thank you. We'll close this matter out then. We do not have a quorum to pass a motion on this, but thank you very much, Camille, for your presentation and do take the input you've heard from all the council members into account.
Yes, thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5, North Fair Oaks Bicycle Pedestrian Railroad Crossing and Community Connection Study Update. Presentation is going to be given by Joel Slavitt of the Office of Sustainability. And I see Joel.
Hi, yes. Good evening, council members. I'm Joel Slavitt, Senior Sustainability Specialist with the Office of Sustainability, and I'm here with my colleague Vanessa Castro, who will be pulling up the slide deck. Okay, so I'll be providing this presentation on the North Fair Oaks Bicycle and Pedestrian Railroad Crossing and Community Connection Study. This is an informational item and an update on activity since the prior presentation to this council at its June meeting from last year. Next slide. So first, I'll provide a study overview and update on where we are with our schedule. I'll go over the study goals and factors to consider for a preferred rail crossing. I'll review the rail crossing options and discuss the trade-offs and challenges, noting that because we are working in a built-out environment with very limited space, there isn't a perfect solution. Then I'll go through the results from our most recent round of community engagement and wrap up with next steps. Building on recommendations made in prior adopted county plans that include the 2011 North Fair Oaks Community Plan and the 2021 Unincorporated County Active Transportation Plan, the overall purpose of this study is to determine where a potential new bicycle and pedestrian rail crossing of the Caltrain tracks might be located, what it might look like, and what might be feasible, with connecting bicycle and pedestrian improvements on local streets, making it easier for people to get to various community destinations. In regard to our schedule, we're a little bit beyond the midpoint of our study, having recently completed our second round of community outreach. And we've been focused on identifying and evaluating our rail crossing options, seeking to land on a preferred option. So we established the following study goals to strive for based on feedback received from the community during our initial phase of outreach and from our community and technical advisory committees. They include improved access across the rail corridor and to local destinations, community integration, enhancing a sense of community through attractive public spaces with art and attractive structures, constructability, minimizing construction impacts to the extent possible and accounting for cost given limited resources, equity to provide improvements for those who may not have access to a car and recognizing the need to preserve existing housing, and safety to provide safe and well-lit spaces that are comfortable and inviting for people of all ages and abilities. There are several different factors that will go into consideration for a preferred rail crossing option, and these include the study goals, a technical evaluation, and feedback from our community engagement process. We also need to obtain permission from Caltrain for the rail crossing, and we're actively working with them to obtain a use variance. The use variance will determine whether the proposed crossing may be compatible with the current and future needs of the railroad. Input from our community and technical advisory committees and advisory bodies such as this one will help shape the recommendation that goes to our board. So our consultant team initially considered numerous potential rail crossing options. And I'll just quickly point out here that the light shaded area is our study area. It's bounded by Middlefield Road on the north, 5th Avenue to the east, El Camino Real to the south, and then to the west up to the jurisdictional limits with the city of Redwood City. So although we initially looked at numerous potential crossing options, these were narrowed down to the following 3 options for further study as a decision was made early on not to require the removal of any homes. Option A is in purple. and that's the Dumbarton Avenue Tunnel, which connects the existing residential neighborhoods on both sides of the tracks. Option B in blue is a Dumbarton Avenue Bridge, which also connects the existing residential neighborhoods on both sides of the tracks. And then option C in orange is a Middlefield Junction Bridge, which provides a connection between the Fair Oaks Health Center on the north side of the tracks and the Target Shopping Center on the south side of the tracks. For the next few slides, I'll walk you through a series of renderings of the 3 proposed rail crossings that are overlaid on photos. We shared these during our most recent round of community outreach for feedback. So this slide shows renderings of option A, the Dumbarton Tunnel. Rendering number 1 in the upper middle part of this slide shows a plaza at the entrance to the Dumbarton Avenue Tunnel on the north side of the tracks, with stairs and ramps located at both ends. Rendering number 2 is at the tunnel entrance towards the bottom of the ramps at the entrance. There are opportunities to provide artwork from local artists to help beautify the space, and safety features such as security cameras, mirrors, and good lighting. Notice the open sky above the stairs, letting natural daylight in below. Rendering number 3 is another view of what the plaza at the terminus of Dumbarton Avenue could potentially look like. And rendering 4 shows a ramp leading to the tunnel from the south side of the tracks along Westmoreland Avenue, which would be converted into a one-way street for the block between Dumbarton Avenue and Buckingham Avenue. And I'll also note there will be a significant loss of on-street parking, but this takes place with all our crossing options due to the limited space. For option B, the Dumbarton Bridge, rendering number 1 on the top right shows a view of the plaza at the north side of Dumbarton Avenue with switchback ramps leading to the bridge. There are opportunities for artwork along the ramps, and as you can see, ramps and stairs leading from the bridge are on both sides of the tracks in the background. Rendering number 2 shows the scale of the ramps on both sides of the track that lead up to the bridge crossing, which is approximately 4.5 to 5 stories high. The high bridge height is required to clear the poles and wires that are being erected with the electrification of the railroad. Rendering number 3 shows a long ramp leading to the bridge on Westmoreland Avenue on the south side of the tracks, which is a little over 2 football fields in length. Westmoreland also becomes a one-way street, in this case for approximately 2 blocks from Buckingham to Berkshire Avenue. Like option A, there is a significant loss of on-street parking spaces, primarily on Westmoreland Avenue. And rendering number 4 provides a bird's eye view of this crossing option. As you can see, where this ramp on Westmoreland Avenue is high, there are opportunities to provide parking underneath. So this slide shows renderings for option C, the Middlefield Junction Bridge. Rendering 1 at the top right shows a ramp along Westmoreland Avenue with some parking opportunities underneath, as well as artwork on the support columns. This bridge is also approximately 4.5 to 5 stories high, like the Dumbarton Bridge. And like the other options, Westmoreland Avenue becomes a one-way street, in this case between Northumberland and Dumbarton Avenues. And I'll also point out that this option has the greatest parking loss of the 3 options, and that includes a loss of parking at the Fair Oaks Health Center, where the ramp runs along the edge of the parking lot next to the Dumbarton Spur line. Rendering number 2 shows the view from the ramp on Westmoreland Avenue as one ascends up to cross the bridge leading to the health center site. And rendering 3 shows a view looking at the bridge, which crosses both the Caltrain tracks and the Dumbarton Spur. The outline of the planned future Middlefield Junction affordable housing site, which this option would connect to, is on the right in the foreground. So during our most recent round of outreach, we also asked people what their preferences were for a variety of different bicycle and pedestrian improvements, as well as traffic calming improvements, as part of making better connections on local streets within the study area to help people get to their destinations. I'll share the highest priority improvements we heard from the community in an upcoming outreach slide. So our consultant developed a technical evaluation comparing the options using a series of 17 different evaluation criteria. As you can see from the scale on the bottom right, the color coding denotes whether the impact from that rail crossing is considered desirable or not on a sliding scale. We intentionally didn't provide an overall rating for the options because we recognize that people will have their own priorities for each of the criteria. However, the evaluation provides a recognition of different trade-offs and impacts that should be considered. I'm going to briefly touch upon a few of the criteria that are shown in bold on this slide, where we saw significant differences between the options. For rail crossing length, the two bridge options, B and C, are much longer and require travelers to go further to cross the tracks than the tunnel, which is more direct. For public space, there are opportunities for plazas that are part of options A and B, the Dumbarton Avenue Tunnel and the Dumbarton Avenue Bridge. For visual impact, due to their tall structures, bridge options B and C have a much greater impact than the tunnel. And while there will be construction impacts with all of the options, option C doesn't have the same level of impact as option A, which will require the digging of a large pit for the tunnel, or option B with the construction of bridge switchback ramps that are only a few feet away from a residential dwelling. The Dumbarton Avenue Tunnel and Bridge options A and B will also likely require the relocation of a large water line that runs along Westmoreland Avenue. For construction costs, because of the large pit that would need to be dug for the tunnel, option A has the greatest cost. I'll also note that high-level projected planning costs of the rail crossings are shown on the right side of this slide. So our second round of community engagement took place over a 5-week period between mid-March and mid-April. We used a variety of strategies to reach community members in collaboration with CBOs and promotoras that included pop-up tabling events at places where people go, such as food distribution events, local markets, art classes, mass, indoor soccer. And we also partnered with the Multicultural Institute to reach day laborers at 2 Chavez markets. We also had community presentations, and we had a well-attended open house at Casa Circulo, where a light meal and childcare were provided to help bring people out. We followed up on a recommendation from this council to do neighborhood canvassing adjacent to the proposed crossings. We also conducted a survey both in paper and online. We received a total of 770 responses. The vast majority of them were paper surveys from in-person outreach. We also sent over 1,800 postcard mailers and promoted our outreach through the project website, a promotional video, social media, and through our community partners. We believe we reached our target audience with 84% of respondents saying they live in North Fair Oaks or an adjacent Redwood City, and 68% said they live in the project study area. 85% of all respondents voted for a bridge option as either their first or second preference. And option B, the Dumbarton Avenue Bridge, was rated as the top first or second preference out of 4 options that were offered. And I'll also point out that it was the overall first choice among all 4 options as well. And the other thing I'll point out about this graph here is that we found that the majority of residents want some form of new crossing, bridge or tunnel, with only 7% choosing to do nothing. 78% of respondents said they'd use the crossing at least once a week, with almost 60% saying they'd use it multiple times a week. And for those that said they would use the crossing, I believe, at least once a week, option B also rose to the top. Some themes received from community feedback include their general concerns regarding personal security, significantly more so with the tunnel than the bridge options. There's a desire for the crossings to be well maintained, free of trash and vandalism. There were concerns as well as questions raised about the on-street parking loss, but most were generally supportive for a new crossing. and the need for better lighting, high visibility crosswalks, and a desire for accessible curb ramps were the highest priority active transportation improvements on local streets. Our Community Advisory Committee shared that our outreach was effective at reaching the community and that another crossing of the tracks is needed. However, they were split between option A, the Dumbarton Avenue Tunnel, and option B, the Dumbarton Avenue Bridge as a preferred crossing option. In regard to next steps, we're receiving input from advisory bodies. We went to our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee last week. We went to the Planning Commission yesterday, and we're here in front of the council today. Caltrain will be performing a bridge constructability review to determine the feasibility of our bridge options and the potential impact to their railroad operations. That review is currently starting now at no cost to the county and should be complete later this summer. The outcome of this review will influence how we move forward with our study. The draft study will be prepared in early fall and released for public review in November, and we'll circle back with our advisory bodies, including this council, and ultimately the board to present the final draft study this coming winter. That concludes this presentation. I know I've shared a lot of information in a relatively short amount of time, but I'm happy to take any questions or comments you may have, especially thoughts regarding the different rail crossing options. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Are there questions from council members on this item? Please, Ever, go ahead.
First of all, thank you, Joel, for your work on this project and also for bringing the presentation tonight. I want to ask you, where are you in terms of gathering the funding for this project?
So right now, we only have funding for the study. At the conclusion of the study, should a decision be made to move forward, we would seek grant funds. We don't have a dedicated source of revenue for bicycle and pedestrian improvements. I can say that there are funding opportunities out there. In fact, I heard from Caltrans about 2 weeks ago of a funding opportunity, and they thought that this project could potentially be a good choice for that. So that's currently where we are with the funding, but right now we don't have any funding lined up to go beyond the study.
Thank you. Second question is, could you comment on the possible construction calendar for this project once the funding is acquired?
Sure. So it would take a few more years to get to the point, even if we had the funding, just to get to the point of construction, because after we complete preliminary engineering, we would also be required to go through the environmental review process, and then we proceed into final design. So after all that takes place, we've heard from our consultants that construction could take 1 to 2 years.
Other questions from council members? Blair, please go ahead.
Thank you for your presentation. I listened in on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee that you did, and the comments were pretty good there. One person questioned why we got to go 50 feet in the air. It seemed kind of strange because Woodside Road goes over the train tracks, and that doesn't seem like 50 feet, but they want us to do this big corkscrew thing and go 50 feet where it's kind of windy. And so there's some technical issues. Maybe we could push back to, it just kind of feels like they're gouging us a little bit, trying to set requirements super high. If they're going to work with the existing height of the Woodside overpass, why are they making us spend all this extra money and create an unpleasant windy experience with this big corkscrew thing? So it's a decent project, and it could create some good circulation, especially with the Mercy housing coming online. And if we get more density along Middlefield and El Camino, I'm also concerned about the connections of the Pacific Avenue neighborhood. So there's like a kind of a wall there of homes, and there's a whole neighborhood down to Fifth Avenue. And it'd be nice if we could connect both north and south along that crossing. And I didn't see that as an option, but if there was an opportunity to, bulb out into some parkland and adjacent trails and to connect circulation between the neighborhood there to the health center, to the library. But yeah, that's all I got for comments.
Sure. Yeah, I hear you about making the connection from Pacific Avenue. Unfortunately, right now, there isn't space without removing a home to do so. And to the comment in regard to like Woodside Road and why can't we be the same height? We actually asked Caltrain staff about that. The thing is that there are numerous existing crossings of the railroad tracks now, and to rebuild them, to actually, I mean, like if they were going to, well, actually if they were going to make all the wires the same height, like they would have to rebuild the crossings, which would be a major expense. But one thing that we have, and we're continuing to work with Caltrain, after this bridge constructability review is performed, and should we get a favorable response from Caltrain staff, we would like, I mean, you're correct. I mean, the 4.5 to 5 stories is not ideal for a pedestrian and bicycle crossing, and we would like to see it be lower. We've asked what could possibly be done to make it lower. We've been informed that the overhead catenary wires are as high as they are out here because in this section of the corridor, it's 4 tracks. And there's limited space, particularly in the area right next to Dumbarton Avenue, where the corridor is only 80 feet wide. And they also can't have their high voltage wires outside of their right of way. It has to be contained within the right of way for safety purposes. And so because of that, what they've explained to us in this area is that they have certain wires stacked on top of each other, which just forces us to go higher. And so we've asked, what is the possibility of perhaps lowering at least one level of wires? They basically have informed us that will require further study, which would require us to go, either us or Caltrain, to go out with an RFP, which is really beyond the scope of this current study. But should we continue to move forward, that is definitely one thing that we would explore.
Please, Kathleen.
Curious to know, I still probably just need to do my own research on this. Thank you for your presentation. I'm curious what we consider Middlefield Junction to be and what the long-term plan is for that to be a destination for better public transportation. Does it mean that we're finally going to get something to do with the Dumbarton Rail between East Palo Alto and downtown Redwood City? Or is it just a way to cross El Camino to Middlefield Road, and then you're there, and then you're going to take your bike and you're going to ride into downtown, you're going to shop along Middlefield? I'm just curious, like when we say Middlefield Junction, what do we mean?
So for our crossing, that's just the name of the bridge because that housing development has been referred to as the Middlefield Junction Affordable Housing Development.
Okay.
This would not only connect to that, but in terms of long-term plans, I understand that a potential transit station has been identified on the Dumbarton corridor, I believe, where the Dumbarton spur crosses over the Middlefield tracks. And so that crossing could potentially provide a fairly direct connection to a potential future transit station, but that's like way off in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions, please, Ever, go ahead.
One last question, Joel. Will the construction of any of those options, A, B, or C, have any effect on the Middlefield Road commercial corridor?
So the ramps won't actually touch Middlefield Road. we have heard, we actually in our promotional video, there was a business owner, it's from a bakery on Middlefield Road, and he actually made a comment that he thought that the bridge, actually whether it's a tunnel or a bridge, he actually thought the crossing could bring additional business to him because it could make it easier for people who live on the south side of the tracks to get to the north side. But in terms of like physical construction impact, it wouldn't, I mean, option C is the closest to Middlefield Avenue, but it wouldn't actually touch Middlefield. It would end in the parking lot of at the edge of the parking lot at the Fair Oaks Health Center.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions from council members? I have a question, Joel, that I hope isn't too silly, but I'm looking at an aerial map and I'm wondering why a simple railroad crossing wasn't considered at either Dumbarton or Berkshire. In other words, make those through streets and establish a railroad crossing there. Would that
Oh,
be
you're
possible?
talking about not making just for bikes and peds, but just extending the road through?
Extending the road through and making it a gated railroad crossing.
Yeah, so we had heard that question before, and the thing is, if you're going to do that, you are going to impact access to a lot of homes on both sides of the tracks. And when you remove their access, you potentially have to you have to acquire them.
I'm sorry, when you talk about removing access, I mean, we can take this offline if I'm missing the point here, but it seems to me simply extending the road over the tracks and putting a gate there would be simple. Why would that require acquiring housing?
Because if you think about it, like other railroad crossings, if you're talking about putting the road over or under the tracks, there's going to be a significant grade change, of at least 20 feet. And you have to have a gradual slope going up. And so all of a sudden, the access to the road is either going to be much lower or much higher. And it's not going to, and so cars trying to get out of the properties adjacent to the tracks would not be able to.
I'd have to go out and take a look at it, because looking at an aerial map, you don't see the elevation changes, but I'm sure you're right, but I just felt like I had to ask the question. So, okay.
Sure.
Any other questions from council members? Do we have any public comment on this item?
During this time, members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item number 5, North Fair Oaks bicycle and pedestrian railroad crossing, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring a speaker slip up to the clerk during this time. Yeah, there seems to be no public comment by feature.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much for your presentation, Joel. When will our next, you're coming back to us sometime towards the end of the year, is that correct?
Yes, when the draft report is released, after we get another round of outreach, we will come back to the North Fair Oaks Community Council.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Agenda item number 6, report outs, the county executive's report. Adam?
I won't repeat the information regarding Middlefield Road potential support. As you're aware, and I know Chair Brooks was on the meeting, we've had meetings with North County and South County fire and law enforcement regarding fireworks and preparations for the July 4th holiday. The county is putting out notices in the news regarding firework buyback and the enforcement of new county ordinances regarding fireworks. So a lot of coordination amongst entities and the county to ensure that we have a safe 4th of July. That work is ongoing. The county also celebrated June as Immigrant Heritage Month. The county's Office of Community Affairs is asking for folks to share their immigrant story at a Facebook Live panel discussion on June 29th in honor of Immigrant Heritage Month. Just wanted to share that information. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Vice Chair Whitney, report out tonight? Nothing. Councilmember Rodriguez, ever anything tonight?
Yeah, just briefly to mention that I've continued to be part of the committee that is actually providing advice to this very project that Joel just presented about the bike and pedestrian crossing. As Vice Chair with me is as well. And also, I've been part of the discussions about creating the upcoming North Oaks Preparedness Day on July 15th. And I'm certainly going to be, Focus going to be participating in them to continue promoting the block action team, which is the North Oaks emergency preparedness program for our community. So that's it.
Okay, Councilmember Daley, Kathleen. Nothing tonight? Okay, I'll go through some of these topics have been covered already, so I won't belabor those. For those of you who haven't driven down Fifth over the last few weeks, the work has begun on the mural project. I drove by just 2 or 3 days ago and saw 4 or 5 of the murals under construction. So that's looking terrific. Follow up on last month's meeting where the community plan was discussed, as well as outreach efforts. And I was interested in leveraging the outreach efforts of the consultant that's helping us with the community plan in terms of raising the awareness of the council. And I'm actually working with the Office of Community Affairs on a flyer that can be distributed at outreach events where Good City is going to be attending. And really, it includes a description of the role of the council, how residents of the community can engage with us, engage with the Board of Supervisors via us, as well as our meeting schedule and that sort of thing. So that's under revision, and Jennifer and I guess, will be working on that.
That's good.
Sure.
It would be great to get a printed flyer, both in English and Spanish. I think it exists. I want to say that they presented it on their presentation, and I would like to actually walk along some streets and pass it out, encouraging people. But I don't know where to get printed copies of that.
Okay.
But I'd like to get the postcards and do some.
Can you help with that, Jennifer? Once we get this thing settled, getting some printing done and.
Check in with Kenny.
Okay.
Yeah, I think through the chair, I think in maybe the last North Oaks Fair, our council had a booth, and one of the flyers was actually done. It was a bilingual, flyer where it explained pretty much to what the North Oaks Council is and what it does and that sort of thing. So, maybe the flyer needs an updating, but there is such a thing somewhere.
Okay.
And I was actually talking about getting more people responses for the survey. Because I know the rezoning, it's 17,000 residents, only 221 responded. That's not feedback. And so I would like to, and we got the restaurant people interested in logging on to make sure, but I think we need definitely more feedback. And so I was hoping to get a printout of the what the survey of
the community survey.
This thing.
The QR.
Give it, thank you, QR code. It is a card printed out on both sides. It explains exactly what it's all about and encourages you to participate. And so I'd just like to start walking around and making sure that.
Okay. Can you take an action, Jennifer? I sent a draft to, I think Emma has it, and I know Deanna has it, of the flyer that we used at the community festival last year.
Right.
And I changed it a little bit to make it even more, oh, there we are. Even more pointed about the role of the council and how we really do represent the community up to the board. So I'd like to get some input from everyone on that. It's English and Spanish and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah, Blair.
I recall the consultant saying that they were getting good feedback, but some people really wanted to talk. And that was more than they could capture. So there's like quantitative methodology where you get like Likert scale and rate this. But then there's qualitative where you get the stories and the anecdotes. And that's equally and sometimes more valuable. But I think we gotta man booths and create like a listening post where people can share with us.
Yeah.
And it's something we need to work on. So definitely a table at the future festivals and events, maybe even like a box at the library and other stuff like, we want to hear from you. What are your experiences?
Yeah.
Because this guy's getting people wanting to talk, but he can't capture that. That's not what the consultants.
And I think you had asked them at one point too, if one of us could be at the different tables that they're going to be, and I don't know where that schedule is.
They don't have a schedule yet. I've asked them,
Oh,
and when
okay.
they do publish a schedule, I'll be
Okay.
letting folks
Yeah,
know
'cause I would love
Where
to-
they can volunteer.
I would
Just
volunteer.
asked her for preparedness fair. We could get a card table and set up there.
We still do have vacancies on the council for a regular member, a youth member, and an alternate youth member. And applications are available at www.smcgov.org/BNC. And there she is. I wanted to recognize the fact that this is Deanna Hernandez's last meeting, supporting us as clerk of the North Fair Oaks Community Council.
Where are you going?
She's moving to Chicago. You want to tell us a little bit about it, Deanna?
Sure.
Snow's there.
So it has been a pleasure getting to know you all, the clerk for the last 20 months or so. And if you didn't know, I'm originally from Chicago, so I will be moving back. I got a house, so I will be enjoying my house and my mortgage now. But I've been in the Bay for a few years now and I've always loved North Fair Oaks. I have always found a way to volunteer, to be involved. Now clerk, the North Fair Oaks Community Council, and it has been very fun getting to know you all, working with you and seeing you out in the community at different events. And I will be tuning in remotely from Chicago. And I will be visiting, but thank you so much for allowing me to learn more about you and kind of your role here. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, wow, yay.
Thank
Well,
you very much.
congratulations on being able to
Yeah.
buy a house.
Their support.
Yeah, something you can't do in California.
Okay, that brings us to adjournment. Thanks so much to our presenters tonight. Thanks to the members of the public who attended and participated this evening. Thanks to county staff, Emma, Kenny, Deanna, Josh, Jennifer, Adam, for their support. Our next meeting is a study session on July 20th. We'll be discussing parking for the community. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We can't make motions.
Can't make a
We have a
motion.
quorum.
Stand adjourned.
Oh, there's our new clerk then.
There we go.
Yeah, well,
Jennifer's
there-
gonna
yeah.
support us, yeah.
We're in Chicago.